Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state. Welcome back to the Innovation Unplugged, a production of the ACCS Innovation Center. I'm Houston Blackwood. I'm blessed to serve as the workforce director for this group. Today I've got my partner in crime, Kailah Dozier, Director of Marketing and Corporate Partnerships for the Innovation Center, and we are pumped today to have an extremely special guest. Joining by Zoom, Miss Leigh Shiver from Enterprise State Community College and Enterprise. How are you, Leigh?
I'm great. How are you all?
We're good. If I was real honest, I'd say I'm a little bit tired because this is day 3 of a road trip for different things, and I'm actually in between conferences, third conference in 3 weeks. And so it's fun, productive, but been looking forward to this episode for a long time to hear from you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So you've got a fun background, much like mine. We mirror each other a little bit. So give us a rundown of who Leigh Shiver is and how she got to be all things workforce at Enterprise State.
Okay. I would like to say that I really started my career when my husband and I moved back home to Enterprise. In 2002, I started here at Enterprise State as an office administration instructor. I was here till 2009, and then I made the switch over to Enterprise High School to become a business education teacher and workplace learning coordinator. So the work-based learning coordinator and business education, I was allowed to, or given the opportunity to help students find jobs out in our community. So I got really plugged in. Being from here, I felt like I knew our community and knew the business and industry. But once I started that role as work-based learning coordinator at Enterprise High School, I really got plugged in to our business and industry and met new people, really came to learn exactly what businesses and enterprise did and what type of job opportunities that they had or could offer our students. So we had probably 100 to 130 students in that program each year. So I transitioned from doing both to just work-based learning. And then I went back to school. And in 2018, I started as the Career and Technical Education Director at Enterprise City Schools and Principal at our Career Tech Center. So I got my educational leadership in 2017. I just saw an opportunity and I wanted to continue to grow the Career Tech program at Enterprise City School, starting from our junior highs all the way to our high school. So I was given that opportunity in 2018. And then in 2020, I came back to Enterprise State. So I did a little backwards. I started post-secondary, went to secondary, and then back to post-secondary. But I thought, with the opportunities that I had been given with Enterprise City Schools and the relationships that I had made within our communities, that this would be a good, change for me to get a workforce director at Enterprise State. And so I started in 2020, middle of COVID, and this October will be 4 years that I've been here.
Okay. I got the director job at Calhoun officially like February 20 of 2020. So I got all these big plans, and then we get that email like March 10th. It's like, go home. I'm like, oh, great. I just started. So that's cool.
I was towards the back end. I was October of 2020. So my COVID experience was in K-12.
Man.
And, trying to separate those high school students and keep track of transportation and what best. So it was a challenge, but we got through that. And then in October 2020, I made the move back here to Enterprise State.
What's the big lesson that you learned out of that COVID experience with the high schools that you also brought with you to Enterprise?
Oh, goodness. There were a lot of lessons learned. I think COVID let us see some weaknesses we had in education. It allowed us to take a step back and figure out new ways. How do we really provide instruction? What is the most efficient and effective way we can do that? Sometimes you just continue to do things the way you've always done because it's worked, but have not necessarily taken a step back and said, is this the best way we can deliver this instruction? So you just had to take a big look at how we delivered our instruction because, and especially in CTE, all those skill-based labs and hands-on training in a high school, how do we teach that online? How do we make it a hybrid? What can be taught virtually and what has to be done in person? And how do we do flexible scheduling? We went to a blue-white day where we had half the class on 2 days a week and then the other half on Tuesday and Thursday, and then Friday was a virtual day. So how do you continue to have that same standard of instruction, but it made us take a completely different look at it. And I think, there were some good things that we could take away from that. There are some things that can be taught online, virtually, but it doesn't necessarily replace that hands-on instruction. We still need that. But how can we be more efficient and effective with today's generation? Education is just changing, and it was changing before COVID, but COVID just really
pushed it,
put it into action before we might have, really fast and really furious and had to figure out how do we do this. So I would say that was the biggest thing that I took away from an education standpoint.
I think too, just hearing you describe those things really speaks to how adaptive you've been with Skills for Success and the changes and incorporating it into maybe, the first year or two that you were director, and then now this new thing in 2022 rolls out called Skills for Success, and you're like, okay, I remember meeting you for the first time, and like both of our eyes are big when they're introducing Skills for Success for the first time. And so I think too, with high school now being a part of the offerings for Skills for Success, how has that translated from your previous experiences to now offering it through Workforce at Enterprise?
I think my past work experiences, the past experiences I've had has allowed me to see how the high schools can use this and how it benefits the high schools, how it benefits our workforce. From all the roles that I've been in, I look back at my career, all 22 years in education. I think each job opportunity I've had has prepared me for where I am. I taught the post-secondary, I saw the college side, I went back to the high school side, I saw the opportunities, I saw the challenges with both age groups, and I could see, because I had that adult learner when I was the community college to begin with. I had those adult learners that had been laid off from jobs that needed to upskill. But I also had those 19-year-olds right out of high school that wanted to come in. So that was all in one class. So I learned how to manage that. But then I went to the high school and I saw the opportunities that they had. I really got plugged into our community. But I also saw the challenges that the high schools had with facilities and programs and what could we really do to make them workforce ready. So coming back here, I think it's a perfect opportunity for our high schools and our workforce to get our individuals in our communities the skills that they need to meet that business and industry demand. COVID really exposed on the business and industry side a workforce I don't want to say problem, but a shortage, of we need skilled workers. When someone has to go home for 2 weeks or a month, that really left a gap of who could do those types of jobs. So it exposed a lot of things that we needed to upskill and cross-train and needed to be able to do multiple roles. And Skills for Success has been a solution for that. We are able to offer it to our high schools that are not only gaining exposure to careers, but they're also getting the hands-on training so they're ready to enter the workforce, but also those individuals in our community that are looking for something different, or maybe they don't have their current job and they need to upskill. But we also work with our local municipalities that, hey, we need to ensure that our employees have these skills, that we can document it, that they've gone through the safety, that gives the business and industries, our local municipalities, all of them a peace of mind that, yes, they can operate this heavy equipment. They've been through this module.
Yeah, you brought that up a while back about, you've got some guys in those jobs that have been running a skid steer for a long time, and they don't need to learn how to use the bucket. They're pretty good at that. And you made the request about having like almost like an incumbent worker skid steer course. So, and I haven't found a way to easily fix that, but hearing you say all that, I was thinking, what if rather than just the normal skid steer, they came in and they did all the pre-trip, the safety, the parts, and all the stuff that's really good for insurance and baseline and safety. But then they did it like an attachments class where they use like a grinding wheel or forks or other things that skip brooms, especially the street department. They could use those brooms for a lot. What if we did that for those guys? So they got a combination of all the safety and the things they really need, but then also upskilled with some different features that's not the normal bucket.
Right, because they have the basic skills. Yeah. We can ensure for the employer that yes, they do know all the safety and they are safe, competent drivers. We can ensure that, but they don't need to know how to really operate the piece of equipment. They need maybe more experience. So I think that would be a great idea. One of the last trainings we did with an electric cooperative in our area, they did bring out extra attachments. Okay. And they did because they knew the basics. They knew how to operate. They knew how to go forward, backwards. I did get on a skid steer one time, and it was a little rocky when I was driving it, but they knew all of that. They were comfortable with operating the piece of equipment. They just needed extra drive time, seat time with working with the attachments, and then they could see really what those individuals could do. So I think that would be a great solution for our existing employees that need to get more experience.
We've been working on that for a year or more, and with different electric cooperatives, but those guys are busy and they will always get started. Then hurricane season comes and they stay gone, doing their own thing. So off air, what if you connected us to that electric cooperative that you talked about? And we use their model, because it sounds like exactly what we're trying to do. We just can't get we got to have a task force to bring it down from an idea down to the skill set. And that's just what we've struggled with. So I would love for Enterprise State to be the lead on that.
Okay. We'd love that.
Now I know you've got other ththings going on. We'll talk about those too, and there's not an extra pilot funding for that, but just that would be another stamp as basically like a badge. Hey, Enterprise did ambulance operator, and then they did this, and then whatever's next. But that's where every idea we've ever had that's been good has come from the colleges in a situation like that. Well, what if we did it this way? Well, let's try that and see what happens. And it usually works out pretty good. So that's
We're
awesome.
always open to new ideas and to try new things.
You are. Speaking of that, Leigh, so Skills for Success popped out in 2022. 21 really got going in 2022. And then, I was new and kind of arrogant and pushing things and pushing everybody to do this stuff. But Leigh Shiver said, wait a minute, bud, let me get this organized in my own world. So what was that like for you to try the new thing of Skills for Success for CDL and for all the things in general? Because we love questions, and that's what has made us so good. And so no, that sounds arrogant too, but just if it's good, it's because you guys have asked questions. So what was that like for you, working through all those questions you had and trying to figure out how it works for Enterprise State?
And I laugh because I often tell Destiny, or I tell you, like, it's really kind of dangerous to give me your cell phone number because I'm going to ask all the questions.
I love it.
And it's just because when we offer training and we put our name to it, when we put Enterprise State to it, we want it to be a value. We want it to be a good training. I am clearly not the heavy equipment operator expert. And
no, so it's okay.
I have a lot of questions, like if I'm going to put on this training and I know nothing about, skid steers and bulldozers, how do I make this successful? How do I make it meaningful? How do I make it to where the people in our community see value in it? So I wanted to make sure that when we offered our first one, that we were ready, that we didn't have any questions, and we still did. But, but that's where the lab plan comes in and it helps so much. I think Houston, you were at probably our first skid steer, and we had some employees from the city.
Yeah.
You looked at me and said, "There's your instructor right there," because he had been operating equipment for 20 plus years, and he does a great job. But they wanted to ensure that they had this certificate, that they were certified to operate this equipment. So we had some with zero experience in our class and the experienced operators. And so how do we make it meaningful to both, where they walk away and they felt like they had learned something that they could take with them? So really the lab plan helps. Having a checklist helps. We need to have these things done. We just wanted everybody's experience, like I said, to be meaningful and of value. And so, the city has been a great partner with us. They let us use some of their land and to, hold these trainings. The high schools, there's a little extra layer in there, making sure that those high school students are ready, that they understand that they're operating a piece of heavy equipment, that they have to be responsible and things of that nature. Not that we don't go through that with our adults, but we just take that extra step. But I would say to get started, just y'all's availability to answer all of our questions and connecting us to other colleges that had already started this, that eased my mind, because like I said, I don't have experience in heavy equipment, but I wanted to have a good training. And it was skid steer that we started with, was our very first training.
I remember they have this huge field behind like a industrial park.
Is this when there's like 5 going at one time?
Well, that was the first time.
Okay.
So this lady Leigh sits here and says, "Well, I didn't really know what to do." And then like a month after her first one, she rolls out like 16 kids or something, or 24. I don't know. Tell us about that, because it looked like an ant colony out there. The picture, the video, there was skid steers going everywhere.
And so I was like, Houston, if we're going to have this training, can we not go ahead and train 16, 24 people at a time? If I can get enough equipment, because for like a skid steer, I like to try to get 1 skid steer per 2 people and have an instructor for 8 individuals. So 1 instructor is watching 4.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, we can have 2 or 3 instructors out here at a time. All these skid steers are going on at one time, because the piece of property that we use is a big field that we have the space where they're safe and they can, not get too close to each other. So I think I sent you a message. I think we had 16 going at a time, or something. And he was like, it was a little shocking. But once I got a little comfortable with, running 4 at a time, we just really expanded that, because we have the space to do that. So that helps us have, I think they can learn from each other. They can network out there. They have 30 minutes of drive time, 30 minutes to come and get a water break or whatnot, but they can talk to people that are in industry, or someone that's looking to learn a new skill. They can connect with people that are already employed. So they have that networking time, and then they can learn from each other watching. Okay, you look over this and they're going at this big hill. I'm afraid they're going to go backwards, but they learn, watching them go back and forth. So it's been really fun to me. And another time that I kind of pushed limit was with food and beverage. I think the lab was written for 8 at a time.
Yeah.
And I called and I said, "Hey, we've got 24. I think we had 30 in a class."
You had a whole grade level. Yeah. Not there. No.
How is this going to work? And I was like, I think we can make this work. And because it was in a high school, and that teacher's she has a classroom of 30. That's how she delivers her instruction. But we spread it out over a month to ensure that everybody could have their checkoffs and stuff. And it worked great. I just want to try to make it work, in any way I can. And if we need a big class, how can I make that work?
Yeah, the high school food and beverage is probably one of the few that can really be busted out that way, because they often have the facilities and all the equipment materials. It's really hard to do with skid steer. I think Leah Bigby's working on something with Hoover City. They've got a construction academy but they don't have the kids there all day, so they need to bust it up over a couple of weeks really. And so we're working through that. It's possible, but always my fear is that we lose the fidelity of the course, because the kids may forget, or they've not been in there in a couple. I don't know. It always is troubling, but then you come with that plan. You're like, okay, here's what we're going to do, and here's how it's going to flow. And it was really a beautiful thing. And I never actually got down there to see it. I think Destiny came, but I saw videos. And man, these kids were marching, and they were so ordered, and it was so structured, and it looked like it was just a 1-day lab, but they were all doing different things. It was really a fun project just to watch.
You know, the flexible scheduling, and I think that's what we can offer to our community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the community colleges are the workforce trainers in our community. Yeah. And so that we want to be that driving force to help our community with whatever workforce training that they need, but being able to offer some flexibility. You know, with CDL, we've had a traditional program since 2018, and we still do. I still see some value of that, but I also see the value of, you know, accelerated training, having some flexibility of, I can do part of this online. You know, like I said, going back to COVID, that's what we were taught. Like, we can do some things virtually, and they can do it on their own time. And then I can schedule my behind the wheel driving, and I don't have to miss work for weeks on end. I can schedule that. So I think you could do that with skid steer. I think you could say, you know, with, you know, Hoover, you got 4 hours in the morning, you have group one, you just have to spread it out over 4 days.
Right.
And they have 4 mornings that they go in. I think you would still have, they would still remember those skills. They just have 4 days of training, and they could rotate their employees or their students or whoever, and you can make that work.
I think so. Chad Sutton did that. Chad did that for the city of Opp, I believe, in the evening, like back in late June, early July, when it was so hot. So they had lights. He rented light towers, or the city gave them. But they did that over 4 nights rather than 2 days. And they started, it was 4 to 8. So it worked out well. And I agree with you completely. And we're totally okay with that. Not many people do or have busted it up that way. So I'm eager to see how those things go. And then I'd even be more eager to hear especially if they were incumbent workers, to hear the supervisors say, well, that was good for us. They're better when they came back, and we appreciate that flexible schedule. I'm curious to see how that looks.
You know, with our business and industry, when they're already tight for employees and they need all hands on deck, you know, for production or whatnot, having some flexibility helps them, and they are more willing to say, okay, you can have them for 4 hours or how many ever hours, what that looks like, you know, because I can swap my shifts out, and I can still have production here and still get their job done here, but then also invest in our employees. So I just think it gives them more options.
Kailah, when you go ahead.
I know. I was going to ask you, Leigh, you were talking about your partnership with the city and local municipalities. We've had that subject come up a lot lately, of just how every college is operating a little bit differently, offering skills for success specifically to the cities and municipalities. And so this platform gives everyone an opportunity to share their best practices and what has worked and what hasn't worked, and where we kind of thought that was a good plan and that didn't shake out very well. And so we're always, obviously colleges are asking us, hey, how does this sound, Houston? Or what do you think? So can you share with us the success that you've had with some type of, are you structured with the partnership when cities send incumbent workers to a Skills for Success training? Or has it been kind of organic and it changes up each time? We would love to hear kind of your take on that partnership and how others can maybe copy that, reflect, complement that to make it work for them.
I think it's just kind of grown, like you said before, organically. We offered the first class. We did talk to our city manager and our city council about the opportunities. Okay. But when we offered our first class, they did send people, their employees, to our training. They saw value in it. That's, that was one of my main concerns. And they liked it. They liked the curriculum. They liked what they were being taught. So they continue to encourage more employees to go through that training. So, we started out offering some during the week, some on the weekends, to try to get both. And then just recently I had someone from the City of Enterprise reach out and say, I would like to have some of our employees trained on a bulldozer.
Mm-hmm.
Can we use this curriculum, use our employee, but do it on the weekend? So, we would contract out with, the instructor. This is the same instructor we've used before, use our equipment, but let us train these other employees on bulldozer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a relationship there.
Mhm.
So if we train the city employees, we use their equipment, so they're
Yeah.
comfortable with their equipment.
Nice.
And so that has kind of worked. We've got the equipment. We even have someone that you can use as an instructor, but let's use this curriculum. They've bought into the curriculum. So that has helped. And that was part of my, not apprehension, but just making sure that I had everything in order before we offered it and put Enterprise State's name on it, that we were ready to answer any questions or that we met the needs of them. So since then, we will offer a course on the weekend for any employees that want to learn that skill. And then we started out with a couple of Class Bs for them. And then they realized, hey, we can also get our Class Bs up to a Class A. And so they would, we were able to work with them and their schedules. So that has worked well.
Were those employees, was it a closed off group? Have you ever mixed your open enrollment with your city municipality employees?
Mm-hmm. We have.
How does that work?
The one on the weekend where we're going to train just their employees on the bulldozer, that will just be a closed group.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do, if we do mix the city employees with an open public class, we'll say, okay, these 2 city employees or how many ever city employees you can operate on this piece of equipment without our rent for the others. Because if we're gonna do it, I want to do it and offer it big and have multiple pieces of equipment running at a time. So,
fun question we have is, would you have those mixed groups of incumbent worker and open enrollment? For those who are open enrollment, they're obviously looking for a job.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would think.
Absolutely.
How do you separate your groups so that the company, the vendors, the businesses don't try to hire those people working for the cities?
If that has happened, I haven't heard. The conversation, like right now, the City of Enterprise is advertising for heavy equipment operators. It was posted today. There's 2 different positions, one with a Class A, one with a Class B. Same way we do some of our 4 credit classes. Because in our advanced manufacturing, which is not skills for success, but in those classes, we will have people from business and industry, our traditional college students, and dual enrollment students. Yeah. And I'm really big on relationships. And I believe the more relationships that they can build and networking that they can do, that is better for the individual, it's better for the company. So whereas they might not necessarily be ready for a job now, if they start looking for a job, they will remember that person that worked with the city or for that company. And they have a relationship and they know who to go talk to. It's not as intimidating. And they learn about job opportunities. One of the fiber classes we did have people from business and industry. We had a couple of high school students.
Really?
And people from the public.
Wow.
And so,
what was that like? Tell us all about that. Because I don't know that that's been done. I don't know it's been done that way. Tell me more.
It's great. I mean, to me, a student's a student. I don't want to separate that. I just want, if they need this training, let's put them in there. So we had some come from Geneva County. I think we had one from Geneva County and a couple from Dale County, and they drove in because it wasn't like a school sponsored one, but their high school principal said, yes, you can do this. And then we had from a local municipality, they brought in a couple, and then we opened it up to fill the class to the public. So it was great. It was really, really good to see the conversations, people that had been experienced in working with fiber, and then students that were just interested in it. They learn from each other. Those younger ones just had, they were eager, they have new ideas, but then they also could learn from that seasoned employee. So I like to mix a class. I do. Now we have had a full class with like an electric cooperative, but I like to mix them. I like the networking. I like the possibilities that can come from that. So it works great.
That's cool.
Especially if we can hold it here. If those high
Yeah.
school students can go off site, if their principal will allow them to go off site, then we can do that. We can't do that, of course, at a high school.
No, and that's a trouble. Not trouble. I mean, it's just the practice. You're not taking strangers or even businesses to high school. But I love that idea that those principals basically just signed those kids up for a field trip and said, "Go get it." We did that when before I left Calhoun. We had some young men in one of the county schools there that wanted to be line worker, and it was a 7-week program. And I'm like, "Well, Robbie, like they can't take it just any time. Like we have certain schedules." And so there was a spring course that was starting it was a summer course, but starting like the last week of May. And I said, "Listen, they're seniors. They're not doing anything in that school. They need to get out of the building anyway." And he was like, "You're right." So he went down, got it all worked out. The board approved, and they actually ended up going through line worker. And then the next fall, they started putting kids through CDO Class B to work in the county with like the county commissions. And it wasn't huge numbers, but they immediately saw the value of a field trip, and so they sent them. And I love that. I hope that we get this fall, this next spring, with the K-12 offerings especially, I hope that we get to more immersive experiences, because it's fine to do these food and beverage hotel ops in Miss Smith's classroom. It works. We can check off. They see it. But, man, how cool is it if they get a field trip to go down to Granny's Country Kitchen and do some food and beverage there with real customers maybe, or on a day it's closed. And, man, how much better is that at letting them know I like it or I don't? And then now we know something.
Exposure, because they don't. Yes, we want them to decide what career track they want to be in, but again, part of career and technical education is to give them exposure to multiple industries, all 16 career clusters. They get in it. I'm really good at this, or this really isn't my thing, and that's just as beneficial as learning what really is their niche, what they're good at. They, instead of trying to go and spend all this time investing in a career that really doesn't fit them. So giving them that exposure and the skills, the confidence that I've seen from these high school students from they started to when they finished, food and beverage, they were nervous being the waitress and things like that, how comfortable they got with it, or piece of heavy equipment, they were apprehensive to go over that dirt pile. And by the end, they were very comfortable with it. So giving them the exposure and the skills at the same time really makes a difference. And they love it, or they thought, I'm not like that, but maybe I want to get out of class and maybe I just want to do that because my friends do it. And they end up finding out something that they're really, really good at. So I've seen that and seen the high school students' confidence increase. Even, our public, our adult learners, seeing their confidence increase. A cool story though, what you were talking about, marrying them with business and industry. We have a company in Troy that scholarshiped 4 students they interviewed 4 students to go through the CDL Class B. They ended up scholarshiping their permit, their physical, their drug screen. And then they were able to go through the CDL Class B their second semester of high school. So those last few weeks in May, when seniors take their finals early, they were going to come into our Ozark campus from Troy. That principal superintendent released them. They drove to us and they did their Class B. So they had their Class B before they even graduated. And a partnership with a company in Troy made it possible because they were helping offset some of those costs. And then they had a job waiting for them when they finished. So that was a really cool thing. And Jeremy Knox and Troy Pike, he was like, are we the first high school student to get through it? And in our area, yes, with Enterprise State, yes, but not with the state, but he wanted to be the first. But it was a really cool opportunity for that student. And
Absolutely.
He was ready to go once he graduated. And he had that certification, those skills, and he was connected to a business and industry.
That makes me proud. I live in Troy, so hearing that story, and I'm interested. I kind of want to do a follow-up story of where that individual is now, just to see if he has continued and been promoted or when that was. So off air, I'll probably get with you about additional things like that. But that's exciting. We love success stories like that, just because people can see themselves in others. And so we want to shout those from the rooftop. So Jeremy Knox, he's the CTE
He's a CTE
director.
director
Yep. Okay.
for
In
Troy
Pike.
City and Pike County
Mhm.
schools.
Awesome.
That's cool. And what I love about that is that, it took you a while to get to the CDL concept of skills for success, which I loved because I knew that when you got it ready to run, it would be perfect. And then you turn that right around and change those 4 kids' lives
Absolutely.
by, figuring out how to do it for yourself and then how to be flexible with it and then just putting it out there. I love that. That's exactly
what
what
we're
I'm
all
here.
about.
Yeah.
Right. And I have another success story of a CDL student that, because we've had the traditional program since 2018. So how do we continue for those that want the traditional model, how do we still meet their needs? And then how do we meet the needs of someone that I have experience, or maybe I can't pay this tuition, or I don't qualify for WIOA funding, or whatever reason they needed to have another option. So I had a student, it's been this semester, that came to us. He had his permit, he had his drug screen, he had his physical, he was ready to go. And he was wanting to go through a traditional program, and he needed financial assistance through the Career Center. He didn't qualify for that, but he really wanted to earn his Class A. He wanted to go on the road. How can you help me? And I was like, we have not done this with just someone with no experience, but hey, if you're ready and you're committed, we'll do this online portion. So you've got everything that you need to do the online portion. Flew through that, did great, and started behind the wheel. He was probably 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, zero experience, but it worked, and our instructor has been, teaching for us for 6 years, and he takes his job seriously because it is an important job and a necessary job, but it is very important to him to have competent, safe drivers on the road, that when they're out there, that they meet a standard. And he will not, schedule them for testing until he feels 100% sure that they are ready. And he takes that, very seriously, which we can all appreciate.
Absolutely.
And he was like, he did it. He did great. He was ready, and he passed it the first try. And there you go. I mean, so we had kind of used skills for success for those that had some experience, but then the first one that came through, it didn't really take them much longer. I think it might have been 4 weeks because the student was a little nervous. Like, what if I don't finish in 3 or 4? I was like, you're going to stay here until you're ready. You can continue to come and continue to practice until you're ready. But that we have that option because I believe we have both. So our instructor is here. He is one of our instructors, is not someone we're hiring. He's here 40 hours a week. Yeah. So you come, you practice, you drive, and we're going to, we will not schedule your test until you're ready. And he passed the first try. He was so excited. He did great. And really just kind of eased us into, yes, we can do this, because we've been working with local municipalities of training from a Class B to a Class A, just someone just from the public, zero experience, did not grow up on a farm, did not have, it would be like me trying to go through it, but he was successful and he did great.
Oh, I was about to say that story is extremely powerful because we exist to provide those options for you and for our local community colleges. And I think that we're breaking those barriers and breaking through the status quo of we've always done things this way, and that individual, that life is changed. They didn't hear a no from you. They didn't hear, hey, it's not really how we do things, call us back in a month, like that right there. I want others, it's not about me, but we need others to hear how you took a step back, you paused, you thought about it, you looked at the individual, and you said, hey, we're going to figure out how to make this work. We know how it works for other people. And so thank you for sharing that, because that truly is why we exist, even for the one, right? It's a big deal.
Right. And, he doesn't have to be defined by that 3 weeks, and our instructor knows that. And he was, we're willing to do what it takes to get them to where they're ready. And so again, that goes back to, we want to make sure that we have those safe, competent drivers, or safe, competent, heavy equipment operators. But Skills for Success has been a game changer for Enterprise State. We're a smaller college. We are actively adding new CTE programs as quickly as we can. We just see a workforce need in our community, and we feel like it is our responsibility to provide the training to our community. So it has allowed us to go into other industries and other career clusters that we have not in the past been able to serve. And so, we have not been in construction or anything like that. So allowing us having the opportunity to now provide this training to our service area has been great for us. It's been great for our high schools. It's been great for our community members and business industry. It's been a win-win for everybody, for sure. And I'm excited to see the new programs that are going to roll out to cover all the different career clusters. And we're building a workforce training center. We're excited to say that. And we're starting an automotive program. This is first year, a welding program the first year. We'll move our advanced manufacturing, but we'll also have a flex space. And that flex space is for non-credit training.
Yep.
We just have an open room. What does that look like? We don't know. We just want to be ready to have a training space for whatever our community needs and what comes our way. What does that look like in 5 years? We don't know, but we want to have a space for that.
In that
so we're excited.
That's incredible. I've heard everybody has a different plan that's building one of those. I think there's a lot of those projects. But that flex space, I'm always curious. No walls, nothing really anchored to the ground other than like cages for equipment on the side. So you really do have like this extremely large surface area where you can do just about anything. If you need to, even
we ask for a lot of air and a lot of power.
Yeah.
And the air compressors come from whatever we need. What do you think we might need? And again, I am the business teacher. I don't necessarily know all those answers to those questions, but we've, met with a lot of people. This building is a partnership with our city. And so I met with the city council a lot and the city manager. What do you need? They want to bring business and industry in and continue to serve the business and industry we have. And how can we help with that? So it's a true partnership with our city for this building. So we're excited. Hopefully August of 25, it will open.
Oh, okay. I thought you were meaning August this year. Like, whoa. Okay.
1 year.
Yeah.
1 year. So
that's exciting. That is so exciting.
Good for you. I know you're going to take that space and just smash all the barriers, we've never done it that way kind of attitudes and just,
it'll be the most elegant smashing.
It will be. So elegantly smashed.
Right.
Can that be the title of this one? Elegantly smashed. Elegance.
I don't know about that.
No, elegance in workworkforce.
Well, that's Leigh.
I know.
Like, that's you. Like what I want to be when I grow up. I'm just kidding.
When I grew up, I want to be that guy that used to smash watermelons on the comedian stage. What was his name?
Oh my gosh.
You remember him? You're not old enough to know.
Mm-mm.
Doesn't matter.
Neither is Leigh. What are you
no, Lee's my age. Oh, he had the long hair, and he would just like had this huge mallet and line people up and just smash what. We were way off topic.
Nice.
So elegant conversations, elegance in workforce, whatever. You're the title maker.
We'll come up with a good title.
Hey, Leigh, we're way out of bounds and we're way over time. We're going to get cut off and get a hook around our neck. Final thoughts from you in all things Enterprise State. What does the world need to hear from you in 1 minute or less?
Oh, that's tough. I don't know. I think the common theme at Enterprise State is we want to try to find a way to make it work. Whatever that need is and whatever that request is, and what can we do to serve our community? We fully believe at Enterprise State that we exist to serve our community, and let's break down those barriers. Let's figure out what needs to be done and figure out a way. And I think that's how Skills for Success has helped us to meet those needs. But, we don't like to say no. Sometimes we'll say yes, and then we have to figure out a way to make it work. But,
Yeah.
From the top down, from our president down, that has just been the common theme, that we are here to serve our community. And that's what we want to do.
You're doing it very well. We
Mhm.
appreciate all of the questions, all the new ideas, all the can we do it this ways, because that's what makes everything better, and that leads over to other colleges and other ideas, and way leads to way, and you are leading the way, and we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Just please don't block my number, correct? So I can continue to ask those
Never.
questions. Y'all are probably like, oh goodness, that's Leigh again.
No, never. No, I'm looking forward to all the things, and we got some other projects coming up soon with you, and your pilot course with the ambulance operator. So I'm looking to get, we get that ready for the whole state to use. Man, what a game changer! So you guys are big things.
Yes.
So yeah, we're good. I know we're 57 minutes in. So
Yep.
Kailah, take us
I'll wrap
away.
it up. Thanks for joining us again on another episode of Innovation Unplugged. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on all our social media platforms. Have a great day.